Nuope Akanu joint border post in the Volta region has been commissioned twice. First, by former President John Mahama, and later in 2018 by current President Akufo-Addo. The automated border post put together by Togo and Ghana has not been operationalized, and this is because the automated system lacks a software required to make it functional. From the Volta region, Ivy Setoji has today's story in our series on the state of Ghana's entry point, porous borders.
These trucks move in and out of Ghana and Togo here at the Nuope Akanu joint border post. Travelers and traders used to depend solely on their Aflao and Segbe border for thoroughfare, but the traffic here created serious congestion. The joint border control system was commissioned in 2017 to reduce the congestion. It was to help check the trucks automatically. But more than 2 years after commissioning, the joint border post is not completely operational. Drivers of long vehicles cannot come to terms with the situation, as well as the difficulty it presents to them. They allege the head of the sector command of the Ghana Revenue Service and Customs, Assistant Commissioner Sheila Vigbedo, has refused to admit any truck carrying goods through this border.
Before this truck, we are giving us this thing, laissez passer. We are calling it undertaking. Okay. It's 1 month. Okay. To enter Ghana, come back. Okay. But now this woman making it 2 weeks. So we are getting difficult for that one. But every day is a spike. Every day is 5 cities. Then we are paying a penalty. So they just give you 2 weeks. When you go, before you go load from company, they will give you documents. It's more than 2 weeks. If you come back, we can't pay penalty. Sometimes we are paying 80 Ghana, sometimes we are paying 100 Ghana, sometimes we are paying many. We pay almost about 15 Ghana citizens. So that's our program now. What we want to talk for this woman, make you return the team back to 1 month. 1 month. That before it be 3 months. Wow. Before come, we reduce time to 2 months. Before end of the year, they come back to 1 month. Yes. Now this woman bring it 2 weeks.
Who is this woman? Wow.
So I wouldn't know you. Okay. They say he be the big
customs officer. The madam of the customs office.
Yes. So that's that.
She declined comments in our attempt to get her side of the story. At the time of our visit, the officers were seen attending manually to very few people who were entering the country, whilst some of them seemed idling at the post. At the end of our visit, only 3 commercial vehicles with passengers were checked in manually at the post.
Business is not booming. We are hoping business booms after the completion of the joint border post here. There's pressure on the Aflao border. As you can see, the only car from Togo to Accra is not full.
Apart from the officers who were idling, the border post has just few security officials, so thoroughfare here is very easy. Like all other borders reviewed so far, several unapproved routes exist here also. A Togolese expressed his frustration about the situation.
My advice is it depends on both of the presidents. I don't know how they think about this place, because this place is a very big place for ECOWAS. They invest many money here, plenty money here, but they don't want to get that money, how do you tell it, how to collect it back. So I don't know. In Togo here, they laissez passer or undertaking, they are making here. But the Ghana side, they don't make undertaking here. They used to go to make undertaking at Aflao before coming here. All those things make a big problems here. Like this place is going very well. Everybody can find job here.
For now, the officials are waiting for the software to make this border post functional, and that will ease the Aflao border pressure, reduce processing time, and also allow trucks to reach their destinations, especially those with perishable goods. It will also enable ECOWAS monitor transactions at the various border points for the collection of the ECOWAS levy. Here is Anthony Avobedo, MCE for Ketu North.
There are some documents that they cannot process at the joint border post that they have to go to a flower to do. So that means the place is not fully operational, so they still depend on flower to do some things. When the trucks come, they will do some of the documentations in a flower, and some will be done at the joint border post. So I'm of the view that when all these things these bottlenecks are being addressed, the trucks, when they come to Akan, every documentation has to be done at Akan. So that's what we are hoping to have.
A lot of money has been spent on this joint border post. Both staff and users of this route want to see some action as soon as possible. Ivy Setojish reports for JoyNews.
That's Ivy Setoji with today's edition of Porous Borders. I'm joined in the studio by Head of Public Affairs Department of the Ghana Immigration Service, Superintendent Michael Amoakwata, to give us a sense of what the service is doing to resolve this particular issue that you've seen, as well as the many others highlighted in previous editions of this series. Welcome to JoyNews, Superintendent.
Thank you.
Let me just take your quick reaction to what we just saw. So we have agreed, Ghana and Togo, to have a certain system that would help us. We can't do that because there's a software problem. And I want to believe it's maybe linked to finances, is it?
Yeah, thank you. There is a joint border point, and it is the two governments of Ghana and Togo to see to its proper operations. So when issues like this come, then the two governments, through the border agencies, should come together to find an amicable solution, maybe the finances and the type of app that is to be purchased. So yes, it's true, it is slowing down the full operation of that joint border post, but I believe with time it will come on full gear.
And do we know why the delay?
Yeah, as I said, that I cannot give an answer to that.
All right.
Yes.
But we've been bringing our audience a lot of stories from different border posts in the country. One of the basic things that cuts across is the lack of personnel, especially how people are taking advantage of unmanned entry points. Your boss, the Comptroller General, has been touring some parts of the country, and he has witnessed it for himself, some of these porous borders, if I may say. What is your biggest challenge in dealing with those entry points?
Yeah, thank you once again. Yes, like you rightly said, the borders are porous, maybe by the way they were demarcated and by the topography of the areas. And for us as the agency of state to manage these borders, one, looking at the long stretch and the resources that we need to be able to be effective in managing these borders. We are faced with the constraint of human resource. I mean, the people to be trained to be deployed into those areas. And secondly, logistics, having the accoutrements to be able to be out there and do an effective patrolling, border vehicles, weapons, communication gadgets, and all that. So these are the two main challenges that we are facing, the personnel and the logistics.
There was one particular story that we got from Lubu, my colleague Ina Thalia brought us that, and she even mentioned that to the extent that people are taking advantage of this, they're smuggling goods, and they mock your officials because they know that they don't have the speedboats. How does that make you feel? Your job is to protect our entry and exit points. You have the same people you're supposed to be protecting mocking you because of lack of logistics?
Yes, you see, these are miscreants, smugglers, and who are out there in these porous borders. And they know the terrain because they live there and they work there. And you see, on the Kano River, that is the dividing line. And yes, they are in boats and canoes doing their smuggling activities. But then we are handicapped. But what we do, and maybe it has not come out, that we also have identified some of these crossing points that these smugglers normally use. So at times, based on intelligence that we get, and also from our own enforcement operations, we go and ambush them. And we have been making some laudable arrests of rice and oil coming from Cote d'Ivoire into Ghana, then plastic wares and silverware from Ghana going into Cote d'Ivoire. We've been doing that. But for the lack of the speedboat, like we said, to be able to be on the river to make our presence felt, to serve as a deterrent. But then we are also using other strategies that we can at our disposal to counter such menace.
We saw in the videos these people smuggling the goods, and I'm sure the question on a lot of people's minds, if they can smuggle goods, then they can smuggle every other thing then. We don't feel safe.
No, we should be safe. I don't know if you have been following releases from the Immigration Service recently. In fact, for the last 3 months, June, July, August, we've done a lot of interceptions, especially fertilizers. And you see, the security idea about all this, the person takes the fertilizer across Ghana into Burkina, and we say there are terrorists in Burkina. Fertilizer can easily be turned into bombs. So the next time it's coming, it's a truck full of bombs, and to come and cause mayhem.
And I'm saying, so watching this, sorry to cut it, watching this, we just see the people smuggling the goods. And that's why I'm saying that, should we feel safe? The people are bringing the goods in.
We should feel safe. You see, they are not yet into our territory. They are on the river.
But they entered the territory. Our cameras followed them.
Yes, but then there was one that I saw that when the person entered, there were some border security personnel there, and they had to ask the person to go back.
But I'm not sure it was for the Alubu story. Maybe another area. But for the Alubu story, we did see the people walk into the community with the goods.
No, then I haven't seen that. But what I'm saying is, as long as they are, let's say, on the international boundary, we cannot do anything to them. But the moment they cross and enter, like I'm saying, we will get them arrested. Because they cannot, as long as we have personnel dotted along that crossing point, they can just walk in with the cameras watching them, and our officers will not go in.
But you see, Superintendent, the problem is that in most of the stories that we have done, we realize that these entry points are actually unmanned. So there are sometimes even no personnel there at all to see. The one that you saw of the person being asked to return, that was from a Mahmoud Mohammed Nuruddin report. I remember that very well. I think there was a woman who was carrying some wares, and they were asked to go back because then your patrol vehicle had just chanced on them. So we are talking about the places where you don't have men at all.
You see, we have approved point of entry.
Exactly.
There you find officers stationed.
Exactly.
Then we have also identified unapproved points of entry. There we go on patrols. Where we think that point is prone for smuggling, we normally will put men there for a period, then they move to other traveling unapproved points. Because
is it that you don't have enough men to station at these unmanned?
I said that in my intro, that we do not have enough men to be able to be deployed along all these unapproved points. That would be a really difficult task.
But you also aren't absorbing more men into the system.
No, it depends upon what the budget says. And you see, let me say,
so you are restricted.
For the yes, we are restricted in a way, depending upon allocations that will come to us to be able to employ or recruit. Just the last recruitment we did last year, for the first time, we were able to recruit by government release 1,000 personnel, both officer, corps, and general duty. So we are hoping that maybe another release will come for maybe 1,000 or 1,005. Then we can beef up security at
how many men do we have in the Immigration Service as of now?
On the last count, I think we have a little over 5,000.
5,000 of them. And obviously, some will be doing administrative work, sitting in the offices at your headquarters. Some will be at the airport, at the regional headquarters. And we are saying that out of this 5,000, we still don't have enough men to man all the unapproved, especially the ones known to be used by many people.
We don't.
In your estimation, how many how many people making up your service do you think will need to say, okay, that's a good number we can go with, that's enough men to
man the borders?
Yes.
Maybe I would say about 15 to 20,000.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yes.
That's more than double of what you already have.
In Elugwa, along the Tano River, our officers have identified about 10 to 20 unapproved points.
And how many men would you need stationed at each of these points?
The unapproved point, maybe not less than 6.
Okay.
You see, not less than 6. Then maybe they also have to have the communication guide, like I said, because if there's any operation that the 6 cannot contain, they have to call for reinforcement, so they will need vehicle and all that.
In March this year, you were promised some vehicles, and recently when your Comptroller General went on a tour, he also promised that by the end of this year, that's before Christmas, they were going to have some weapons coming in. And I'm asking this question because at the Chache border between Ghana and Ivory Coast, the residents there claim that Ivorian rebels are taking advantage of the porous borders and also illegal mining to integrate into the community. Do you have reports of such, and what are you doing about it?
Yes, we have, and that is why about 2 months ago, the Comptroller General called for a special meeting of his commanders and sector commanders to strategize as to how best to counter such alleged infiltrations of these terrorists. And more officers were drawn from lesser prone areas up to the northern parts of Ghana, and also some equipment, vehicles and things have also been sent. So that strategy is helping us to contain any threat.
But did you confirm any of these? Are they really rebels? They are.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
And we hear some of them actually have weapons.
Definitely, that's why we are very concerned about this fertilizers being smuggled across, because we know they could be used for other evil purposes, like I said, bombs and all that. So we are on the ground, and that's also why within the last 6 months, the Comptroller General and his team have been touring the northern parts just to encourage the men out there in the operation to counter terrorism, and also to see at first hand some of the challenges, then come back and give remedial solutions.
It's interesting, but let's just talk about the collaboration in wrapping up our conversation between immigration officials here in Ghana and those in our neighboring countries. In one of the reports, we heard Ghanaians accuse Ghanaian immigration officials of not accepting their ID cards as enough proof of identification. But on the other side, the Ivorian counterparts accept that. Why is there a problem with accepting voter ID cards as a proof of identification?
You see, the law says, and even the ECOWAS protocol, that you need a valid travel document, either a passport or a travel certificate, because then when you arrive, details about that travel document should be recorded, and a stamp impression of your arrival date and the condition of stay into the travel document. So if you come with a voter's ID card, that its original purpose is not to be used for traveling. It's a form of identity to engage in an
and so your Ivorian counterparts are doing the wrong thing.
Not that in Ivory Coast or among the Francophone countries, they value ID cards a lot, as we wanting to see your passport. Even when ID cards will be used, it is for those within the border community that we call border residents, who will not travel beyond about 4-kilometer radius. So they can come in with the ID cards and it's recorded, and mostly or generally they are known. But to make an international travel from Nigeria to Ghana or from Guinea to Ghana, and you just want to enter with a voter's ID card, it will be difficult.
But they say your men also take monies from them, so they don't accept the voter's ID card, but they take some money and they allow them in. So it's cost 90, isn't it?
It's not cost 90. I wouldn't also hold brief. Yes, definitely 5,000 plus, they may bad nuts, but they are very equally good officers who are within the service. And it shows recently in the number of interceptions that we have done. 25,000 and you refuse to let go 1,950 bags of fertilizer. So they are good ones there. That's why we want to showcase them and to let other officers know that when you are committed and dedicated to your job, definitely commanders are watching and the kind of appreciation will come.
Thank you very much for your time this morning. Superintendent Michael Amoapata is Head of Public Affairs at the Ghana Immigration Service, and we've been talking about the issues that came up during our Porous border series. We hope to have you here another time. There are more questions that we'd like to ask, and hope you'll be here. Hopefully, we would have better issues to report on at our borders.